Hi, you're listening to the Flow State Fishing Podcast.
What do you mean?
There's fucking two Sheilas in a boat.
Listen to me. Every time.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Rod Armour. High quality protection for your rods and reels. Get to www.rodarmour.com. Rod Armour on socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. Local company, get around them. We're also brought to you by Hustle and Grind Coffee. It's got its own socials now, at Hustle and Grind Coffee Co. Still available through the Flow State Productions website, www.flowstateproductions.com.au. Specialty coffee. So, coffee's graded out of 100 on a world scale. All of our coffee is 80 plus, which makes it specialty grade. It's roasted to order, posted to your doorstep, so it's always fresh. Subscriptions available. Get around it, www.flowstateproductions.com. Look up Hustle and Grind Coffee. Get amongst it, get your fix. And we are brought to you by castmag.co. If you haven't heard of them yet, you've been living under a rock. Top quality apparel, top quality fishing tackle, poppers, stick baits, jigs, decoy terminal. Always updating the website with new shit. Media production, they've got heaps of shit cooking all over the place. A lot of stuff I can't even let out of the bag yet, but you need to keep your finger on the pulse. www.castmag.co, already said that, castmag.co on Instagram, Cast Fishing Co on Instagram, Cast Tackle Co on Instagram, and Castmag on Facebook. Now, I wanted to apologise to everybody. I'm sorry that I've been slack on the uploads with the podcasts. I haven't done any. I've been so busy with video and film production, it has been insane. In saying that, I'm going to scale back, find a bit of balance. I really, really enjoy doing these and I want to keep doing them for as long as possible and make a lot more time to go and get more done and be more consistent for you guys. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry. This episode, however, doesn't even feature me, or I'm not in it at all. It's Mick and Flynn on their way to do an epic little flats mission. Little car episode, very similar to the one that Mick and I did on episode 1. So get around it, there's some great info in here, great insight into Flynn's life, a bit of cast stuff, good yarn, laid back, cruisy one. Get around it, let us know what you think.
Rightio, we're on. Haven't seen you for a while, man.
No.
Haven't seen you for ages, actually. What
Wait, Brad, just before we start, you said put unleaded in there, right?
Yeah. Unleaded diesel. You fucking idiot. So welcome everyone back to the Flow State podcast. This one is definitely going to be probably one of the best ones of the year for 2 reasons. 1, because Flynn's on it, and 2, because Wade's not. So let's get into it. We're going to go for a bit of a chat about what Flynn's been up to for the last few months, in particular Cocos Island. For those of you that follow his fly fishing journey, that Cocos trip was absolutely ridiculous from what I saw. I was getting little updates along the way and it was like giving me goosebumps, man.
Yeah, proper what dreams are made of, eh?
Oh, ridiculous. Like, what started that trip? Like, you've been there before, hey?
Yeah, I went there. That's the 3rd year in a row, actually.
Yep. Fucking spoiled, man.
Yeah, and it's actually not the 3rd year in a row, it's 2nd year in a row, but that's 2nd time this year.
Yeah, right.
Because I went in January as well.
That's right. Was that the one I was supposed to be on?
Yeah.
January, yeah.
You're meant to be on both of them, you're just gamming.
Fuck, it's too expensive. Holy fuck, I've got 3 kids, eh?
You got 4 and you just don't see the other one.
Yeah, I know. Fuck, yeah. It's good to see you again, though. You need to catch up with the old man way more often, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about the trip, man. Like, tell me about January first, like, because I saw a bit of the YouTube stuff. Like, there was a lot of GTs caught on that trip, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, that's like the sort of like the prime time to go, I suppose you could say. The last time that we went was the off season, I guess you could call it.
Yep.
Which is when the trade winds blow and it's blowing like 20, 25 knots every day.
Yep.
And there's bulk cloud cover, but we knew that going in, we just had the chance to go, so we thought we'd just do it anyway.
Yeah.
But the January trip was prime time and the fishing was insane. Like, every day we caught GTs and good numbers of them, and saw large amount of numbers, like, and all big fish.
Yeah.
We found like a new zone that we hadn't been to before, which was like a series of drains, and on the run out there'd be like, there's 2 drains in particular, and they're about 200 meters apart, and you'd go fish the first drain, have a shot, and you'd either land that fish or get smoked, and then you re-rig and walk to the next drain, and on that walk you'd have another shot at another big fish traveling on the flat, and that fish generally didn't eat for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'd get to the next drain and again have a shot and get blown away or land the fish.
Yeah.
And then you just walk back to the next drain. And you do that for the last like 2 hours of the run out.
Yeah.
Pretty much as soon as it's shallow enough to get there, you just keep bouncing between the 2 drains. Like every day for that last 2 hours of the run out, we would hook like 8 fish, 9 fish. And like the terrain's just so gnarly, and like landing them's an absolute mission. They're giants. Like some of those fish are over 30 kilos.
Yeah, right. That's a big fish.
Yeah, and especially on fly, and that terrain is almost impossible. But I'd say you got more chance on fly, to be honest, than conventional, because fly line's got a little bit of abrasion resistance compared to braid. But yeah, so there was a lot of GTs. And then like bones, just they're typical over there.
Yeah, it's like the bonefish capital of fucking everywhere.
Yeah, literally, like,
because they're not just numbers, they're huge.
Oh yeah, like an average fish is 65, 70 centimeters.
Yeah, and thick. Yeah, some of those photos, man, like I've never, like, I'll be honest, I've never really had too much interest in chasing bonefish.
No.
Purely because like along the east coast here, they're not really a thing. Like they may be somewhere.
Yeah,
but they're not really like a reliable fishery or anything that you can fully target. So like most of my attention's been like Tuskies, GTs, permit, Goldens, shit like that. But seeing some of those photos, man, like that actually makes me super keen to chase them one day for sure.
And like they're a super rewarding fish, like blue bastards, perms, all that stuff is fun. And it's like super, super rewarding when you eventually get one.
Yeah.
But though, like you can rely on those things to eat.
Oh, for sure.
And like, and they're big fish, they fight hard.
Yeah.
They can be challenging, but if you place the cast right, they'll eat. Like, there's no doubt.
I was surprised too, like, probably I think over the next couple of months or whatever, some of our work is going to be on the Australia.com website for Tourism Australia. And there's a couple of films we did, like just 1 minute mashups from some of the footage, like the Spanish mackerel, GT, Barra, and then we did a flats one as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of that footage comes from the East Cape. But I was asking you about footage for those bonefish.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff you sent me, like it's just off the iPhone, I couldn't believe like you're hooking bonefish and then you've got other bonefish like porpoising in front of you.
Yeah, literally, that
like
was
80 centimeter fish.
Yeah, and that's the first time I've ever seen that and ever heard of that happening.
Yeah.
Like literally feeding like milkfish. They're like rising like trout.
Yeah. And like well out of the water.
Yeah, not doing it mistakenly.
It's almost like a dolphin. That's what it looked like. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that one afternoon they were just everywhere, like on sunset, and even like into the night. They 100% feed into the night.
Yeah.
There was a few sessions where the tide was like super late in the day.
Yeah.
And we would go on and fish until we could not see anything. Like we would cast every little ripple into the darkness and still catching bones.
Yeah, right.
And like the sunset almost made it easier to see them because you could look into the sunset as it was like gone, as there's that last light, and you could see their fins and everything had like orange coming through.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, and like the second last day I think it was, we caught like 8 fish, like really quick and really big fish right on dark, and they were like there was no light. People would be off them. Generally, people would have been 2 hours ago. They would have been gone.
But just that they were that big that you could just see them.
Yeah, and like their whole back and dorsal and tail were all out of the water. So,
what do you find? Do you have to be stealthy for them over there, or like to get close enough? Even though there's numbers.
Depends. Like if you're walking up on a tailing fish, you don't have to be that stealthy. Like compared to permit.
Yeah.
But like there's a few situations like in the super thick weed, you could like run up to those things. They wouldn't know you're there because their head is fully buried in the weed.
Yeah, gotcha.
And you have to land the cast like it basically like rolls off their back.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if the cast is like 20 centimeters in front of them, they can't find it.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to land it like in their hole.
Yep.
But when they're just like on the sand and stuff, they're not that spooky. Like they're spooky, but they don't see that many people.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because when we went to Sudan, there was we didn't see any bonefish in the south, and we weren't expecting to see bonefish in the south. But Nicola said that towards the end of the trip, we'll go to the north and we'll see a flat that's got permit, bonefish, and big yellow margin triggers.
Yeah,
we actually saw bumpies there as well, just little juvenile ones. But we didn't see any bones until like the last day, and like when we were walking along this flat, like it's a really silty flat. So every step you make, there's a big puff of like mud that comes from your boots and it goes behind you. So you're walking like into the current so that all that shit
stays
goes behind you.
Yeah.
And it just happened that the two big bonefish came down the flat that Buster was walking up.
Yeah.
And like we're all being like so fucking stealthy, man, because we're trying to like we're basically stalking trophy-sized triggerfish.
Yeah.
And they're spooky as fuck on that flat.
Yeah.
And we also seen a couple of permit like just really like ghosting because the visibility isn't amazing on those flats. It's quite cloudy. And these two big bonefish come towards Benny and he's casting at them. He thought they were like maybe little GTs or something like that. And as they're getting closer, he's getting louder. He's like, bonefish, bonefish, bone, it's a bonefish, a fucking bonefish. All while he's casting at them, man. And they're like 12 feet away. I'm like, what are they, man? It's a fucking bonefish. I was like, holy shit. Like, they definitely would have heard you. And like, they're not eating at all. It was like, fucking unbelievable. Scared everything on the flat pretty much. Like, it was the funniest shit I've ever seen, eh? Like, I love how he can't contain his fucking excitement, even when you have to be like, fucking quiet.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So there's huge numbers of them over there, and like, you guys would have racked up fucking bone after bone after bone over a week, eh?
Oh, like every day.
Yeah.
I'd say like between, it was me and my dad fishing.
Yeah.
We would, an average day would probably be like 30 bones.
Yeah, right. That's fun.
And so when we went in January, that was in summer, we found that in the afternoon you couldn't fish in the lagoon because the water was so hot.
Yeah, righto.
No matter what the tide was doing.
Yeah.
So it was like a morning thing before the water got too hot, and then the outside you could still fish in the afternoon because like a run-in tide brings like cool ocean water.
Yeah.
But we were getting like far more numbers but less quality. Like there was still like mid-80s fish coming and we were still catching them, but there was a lot more of the like 600 sort of size.
Yeah, rightio.
But this time there seemed to be less bones, but still catching 30 bones a day, like, and not targeting them that much. Like you're just picking off when they come.
Yep.
And but the average bone was like 70 to 75, and we caught lots of bones, sort of 80 to mid 80s.
Yeah, right.
So
that's incredible, eh? Really. When you think about it, that's amazing.
Yeah. And
would there be any other places like that around the world that you've heard of? There'd probably be some, but that's like size and numbers. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like, I don't know what the Seychelles is like, but that's probably similar.
Yeah.
But as far as places like Christmas Island and stuff go, like they've got massive numbers, but they're tiny.
Yeah, gotcha. In comparison,
Yeah, like a 10-pound bone is an everyday thing on Cocos.
Yeah, right. I remember when I first started seeing photos of them on Instagram from those young fellas. I forget their name, man.
The Cocos
apologies,
boys.
Yeah,
there's heaps of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them over there, and I remember seeing a guy like he caught one that was like 90 centimeters or something.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah, and he's like, they're definitely here, and they're definitely over a meter.
Yeah, 100%.
That's amazing, man.
I've definitely seen bones over a meter.
That's crazy.
Like, there's actually been a few that I've gone, not cast at, and gone, oh, that's a milkfish.
Yeah, right.
And like kept looking.
It's a bone.
And then by the time it gets too close, you're like, oh my God, that's actually a bone.
It's crazy, eh? What other species are on there? Obviously there's permit, RAS and shit like that, bumpies.
Yeah, permit RAS bumpies,
Gs.
bulk GTs,
Yeah.
bluefin. There's also those, I don't know what their legit name is for them. We just call them Island Trevally. They're like a golden but stripy.
Yeah,
They got black stripes on.
Oh, yeah, I know the ones. Yeah, they're like bluey,
Yeah,
silver. Yeah, they're like a silver trevally with stripes.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of them. There's also like a bluefin but with the little gold dots on it.
Oh, yeah.
Like
yep. They get them in Africa, eh? Those ones in the
Yeah.
Red Sea. Like, I think they call them yellow spot,
yeah, something like that.
like that. Yeah, and they're like in plague proportions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get them, and then what else do we get that we target?
Did your dad end up getting a RAS or anything this year? Or?
No, he hooked bumpies,
Yeah.
but they all got smoked. What else did we get?
Let's just cut to the chase, man. Tell us about your fucking bumpy.
Yeah, that was pretty
I know you're
hectic.
busting to tell everyone about it.
So,
I purposefully didn't. We've been hanging out for a day and a half now.
yeah,
I purposely haven't asked you about it because I wanted to hear it on the podcast for the first time.
yeah,
Like, I know snippets of it and I've seen the video, but I want to hear it.
yeah. So, the whole, the main goal for the trip was
Yeah.
to get a bumpy.
And this has been a goal for a long time. Like, we've
Yeah.
spoken about this for a long fucking time.
Yeah. And I've watched every single video there is known
Yep.
to mankind about bumpies.
Yep.
And I've even, Dad's got a drone and I've flown the drone over them for as long as the battery can
Yep.
and just watched what they do.
Yep.
And so I put every little piece of the puzzle that I possibly could together.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think it just comes down to pure luck and numbers of shots.
Yeah, right.
Um,
How many fish do you think you had a shot at
for the whole trip.
before you landed one? Yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah, right.
Each day, you would get a shot, probably 15 shots
Yep.
a day.
Yep.
And each school, there's probably 10 to 30 fish in each school.
Yeah, yep.
But yeah, the first one I hooked, the school was just in front of me tailing, and I put probably 20 casts
Yep.
in them, and they just did not want a bar of it.
Yep.
And then for some reason, the last fish in the school just came through and scooped it up,
Yep.
and that was a beast. That was the biggest one I hooked I hooked 4 for the trip and landed 1.
Yep. And landed the biggest one.
No, I landed the smallest one.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
But the biggest one was ridiculous, how much power that thing had. It cleared the fly line and then probably took 50 meters of backing,
Yeah.
and then it sat on the surface on the flat, and it was the best situation to fire them in. There was nothing for it to do me for ages,
Yep.
and it was just sitting on the surface, and then I was just slowly bringing it in,
Yeah,
and
right.
then it just turned around and absolutely boogied and probably took 150 meters of backing.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, proper lots.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Proper lots.
And I've only got 20-pound tippet, so you
Yeah,
can only
yeah.
pull as hard as you can, and
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
bumpy.
Yep.
It's
You would have
much.
been shitting yourself.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
permit. How hard do you want to pull?
Yeah.
If it was a bone, I would have just yeeted on the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So yeah, and then that one ended up got out of the channel, the far channel. So there was a channel behind me that was 50 meters behind, and it chose to go to the further one that was 300 meters down the flat,
Yeah.
and it managed to get to that and got me on the first bommy
Oh, fuck.
in that channel. So that was pretty devastating, but
Yep.
it is what it is. And then the next day, I got another eat, and that one bit me off straight away.
Yeah,
So
right.
it either choked the fly or
Yep.
it just came across its face or whatever.
Yep.
And that bit me off straight away. And then it was 2 days later that I had another eat, and same thing. That was much gnarlier country though, but that tore off and it got me around a bommy before it even cleared the fly line.
Yep.
And then the one that I landed,
basically.
yeah,
Where
exactly,
we chasing. Fuck.
ridiculous.
Oh man.
But yeah, the one that I landed, I was actually walking up to a trigger. I saw the trigger tailing from probably 50 meters away, and I was like slowly getting close to it. And it tailed, and then it went down, and then like a minute later, it tailed like 20 meters away. And I was like, that's a long way for it to move. Like usually they're on one spot.
Yeah.
And then two triggers tailed at the same time. So there was two triggers there.
Yeah.
And then I slowly got a bit closer, and then Bumpy started tailing around the two triggers, and then another two triggers started tailing. So there's 4 triggers and a school of
Bumpies.
probably 20 Bumpies.
Yeah.
And then, so at this point, like they're both fish that I want to catch.
Yeah.
Not knowing what to cast at, like a Bumpy's a Bumpy, is it going to eat?
Yeah.
A trigger, you possibly have better chance to get the thing to eat.
Yep.
But they're all like mixed in with each other, and like what fish do you cast at? So I'm like standing on this bommy, like waiting for an opportunity to cast at something. So I was there for maybe 5 minutes before I'd even drop the fly to cast it.
Yeah, right.
And
So
and
you
then
chose
like
the Bumpy.
yeah, and then like a 20 kilo Jeep swims between me and that mob of fish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck,
What
I
do you
haven't
do?
caught a Jeep for the trip yet. Do I drop that and just like cast at the Jeep and maybe that'll eat?
That's a fucking like what a pity, eh? Like what a shit place to be.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Tough day.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I ended up choosing the Bumpy, and I made that fish like peeled off towards me, and I made a few casts at it, and then it turned around and went back into the school.
Yep.
And then there was a trigger closest to me that was like away from everything else.
Yep.
So I cast at that, and it didn't even think about looking at the fly.
Yeah.
And then the school of Bumpies turned and started slowly feeding towards me, so I placed it out like well in front and waited for them to come to it.
Yep.
And then as they came over, I did like a dead slow strip,
Yep.
and the lead fish like just slowly went over to it and tailed on it.
Yep.
And I felt like the slightest little tick on the line, and I just
Hit
drove it home. And compared to the other fish, that fish did nothing.
Yeah, right.
Like absolutely nothing. It took maybe, like it didn't clear the fly line.
Yeah. Because I saw the video, it was in fucking skinny water.
Yeah, super skinny. And to be honest, I thought the fish was bigger than it actually was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sort of like headed towards the surf, and it was kind of small enough where I could determine what I wanted it to do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And if it wanted to, if it really got its head under, it could have got me on so many things there.
Yeah.
But it sort of just like flopped around in the surf, and then like had a little dig, took like 5-10 meters of fly line, and then it had come back and like sat on the surface, and then I was like, this thing's gonna go.
Yeah.
And it just never went.
Yeah. I remember watching the video and I hear your dad, like when you pick it up, he's like, don't you let that fucking thing go. You know, I fucking won't. Like, he's just like,
I was
not
never
doing
letting that thing go.
That's awesome.
I tell you what, the first thing that they do when you grab it is just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Like everywhere. I was just covered in parrotfish
That's on
shit.
that's on that Aqua Hulk video, eh? There's just shit everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well, there's only like I haven't really asked around too many people or whatever. I know that that Alex Roy guy caught one last year. I'm assuming that's like east coast of Queensland there somewhere.
Yep.
You've got one. I don't know too many people that have landed one. I know 2 of my close mates have got eats.
Yep.
And have hooked the fish. Like Robbo, I was there for. Wade had a shot at one as well. He said he hooked one a little while ago, but that didn't end very well either. But Robbo's, man, like that was like, how many kilos do you reckon that fish was that you landed?
Probably 5.
Yeah. So they look about all you'd really want, honestly, like in terms of being able to handle them.
And like
gnarly country.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those fish on the flats, honestly, like they look like they're in super skinny water, so you walk out to them and they're like waist deep, and they're
huge.
They're tailing easy.
Yeah. Well, the ones that when I went to the Cape with Ben and Robbo, it wasn't my first trip, it was my second trip. I had the fly gear there, and so did Robbo. He was always a bit of a closet fly fan.
Yeah.
So we fucked around with his fly rod on the first trip there, and then the next time we went back, we dedicated a bit of time to fly.
Right.
And that was where like we got all that that footage that of the blue bastard tailing in some of the inshore islands and shit. And then that same trip, we went out to the outer reef, and you always see them there, but we came across them up on the flat, and they're all munching on this little coral head.
Yeah.
And there was like probably from the coral head to the edge of the like the drop off the reef, there's probably about, I want to say like maybe 80 to 100 meters.
Yeah.
And that looks like a long way.
Yeah, but it's not.
Man, this thing, like, Robbo put a cast in, I put a cast in. Mine was completely fucking way out of the way, not even close. It was right at the start of when I first started fly fishing, and Robbo put one in, it was on the money.
Yeah.
And it was just a shrimp, and it just sunk down, and this fish just cruised over to it and tilted on its side, scooped it up. And me and Ben are watching it going, he just ate it. And Robbo was watching the wrong fish.
Yeah.
So he just hit it, and then when he hit it, this thing just took off.
Yeah.
Like, and the whole herd, it looked like wildebeest.
Yeah.
Fucking cruising across the plains, and they fucking took off at a rate of knots, and they were just gone over the edge within like seconds.
Yeah.
And we just all looked at each other and went, how the fuck are you meant to land one of them? Like, these fish were probably in excess of 20 kilos, probably 20 to 30 kilos, like big coffee table fucking things.
Yeah.
And that was just like, how the fuck does anyone ever land that?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was talking to Jarko the other day, and he was saying that the really, really big ones, every now and again where they were chasing them, they were able to target them like 300, 350 meters up into the flat. So they had a long, long way to go before they hit the edge, and that's where they had their most success.
See, on the outside of the Cocos Flats where you chase the bumpies, from the shore to that surf break is probably only 300 meters.
Yeah, right.
Oh, not even 200.
Yep.
So
it seems like a long way.
Yeah.
But they'll tear out there pretty quick.
And
for a fucking ugly, lazy-looking fish,
oh my god,
they're built for speed.
Yeah. And
like Tuskies.
Yeah, 100%. And they don't need a channel. Like, you think when you look at the surf break, you're like, oh, well, they can't get out there.
Yeah.
They need to like go down to that channel.
Yeah.
But they just head for the sea, like for the ocean, and they just find somewhere.
Yeah. No, they're an interesting animal, hey? Like, Jarko was also saying that he thought that in his experience, because their eyes are so far away from their mouth or whatever, he said he thought they had really poor like mouth-eye coordination.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time they like fumble around and miss the fly quite often.
Yeah.
And they want to eat it. So like not only are they big and fucking quick, they sometimes like, even if you get the cast right, they're trying to eat it and they can't eat it.
Yeah.
And then they've got that fucked up hard beak of a mouth.
Oh my god.
Like, you've got to have a lot of things going your way to land that fish, man.
And then they might actually eat it and then they just bite you off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what a
bolt cutter.
What a cool fish, though, eh? Good on you, man. That's like fucking goals right there, right?
Yeah, 100%. I want to do it again. I want a proper big one.
Yeah, I bet. I'd love to get there one day. It's just so fucking expensive to get there. It's one of those things, but it's definitely a bucket list destination, eh?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool part of the world.
It was kind of like Sudan, to be honest. Like, that was something that was never even ever on my radar. And now I would go back in a fucking heartbeat, man.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking cool place. And we only like scratched the surface. We were at sea for 2 weeks nearly and just scratched the surface.
Oh yeah, like Cocos, we were there for 10 days and like you feel like 10 days is not enough. Like,
oh, for sure. I remember in Sudan, like we were sort of, because basically the basis of the trip was the guys that do the operation over there, they typically had a smaller mothership previously.
Right.
So they weren't able to go to all these far off atolls and islands and stuff that they had already seen on the maps.
Yeah.
So they'd only been to a really small area, even though they'd fished it for like 10 years. So now they've finally got this bigger mothership. It was like a scuba diving ship.
Yeah.
And they were able to finally push down to all these, like, sort of, I suppose, like the last frontier of what they were trying to explore.
Yeah.
So a lot of the islands that we went to, they had never been to. And they're the only operator in the area. And so it's like, we know 100% that a couple of islands here have had fly fishermen on there previously.
Yeah.
But 50% of what we looked at is for the very first time.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's
and it's
awesome.
kind of like, unless the locals fly fish, I don't know. But
yeah.
and maybe some really, like fucking wild pioneers or whatever have done it in the past, who knows? But as far as that operator goes, there's no one that's been there. And like to step foot on an island, walk 20 meters and see trophy triggers, lumpies, permit, all sorts of shit like that. It was just like, where the fuck am I and how can I stay? And how long can I stay for? Please. Like, I miss my kids and that, but like, fuck. How long can I stay for real? It was like, it was amazing, honestly. It was fucking crazy. But if I stayed longer, I would have come back like weighing 120 kilos. Like every morning, man, pancakes and Nutella. They fucking love Nutella over there, dude. It's like everywhere. It's like this fucking amazing delicacy. Nutella. It's fucking everywhere. It's crazy. But it was a really good operation too, because the guys are Italian. Right. And so the food's delicious. Yeah. You know, like, and there's a good mix of like Italian food and Sudanese food, and like it was just, it was a really, really good time, and like one of the best experiences I've ever had. And it just got me thirsty to go to more places like that, like Cocos and things like that. But you know, it's like anything. Like I'm just like everyone else. You got to save your money and pick and choose what you do for your holidays and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely, you've definitely put it in the fucking bucket list category for sure. It's fucking crazy, because some of that footage that I saw just from your trip in January with the GTs. Yeah. Just the footage off your chest mount.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
It was pretty interesting, like the trip that we just did. I don't know what it was, but the GTs were very quiet. Like they were still in those drains.
Yeah.
But they didn't want a bar of a fly.
Yeah, right.
They didn't want anything to do with it.
Were they just like mooching around?
Well, my theory of why they're there, because it's only on the run out that they're there, and then they use those drains to get onto the flat.
Yeah, okay.
And on the run out, they sit right behind a bombie.
Yeah.
So it's like in an eddy.
Yeah.
And then there's like these green parrotfish that like mill around in the channel.
Yeah. The real bright ones?
Yeah, and they're only they're like 20, 30 centimeters long.
Shit, eh?
Yeah.
Tried to catch them?
No.
Oh.
Don't eat?
Oh, well, the ones that I shot at, like I spent like half a day fucking trying to catch them with Tyson one day.
Oh, really?
We waded some fucking island, like we waded some coral reef out on the Great Barrier Reef off Cairns.
Yeah.
Fucking heaps of them, and they're eating shit.
Yeah.
They just don't eat flies. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
And they just like mill around in there, and last time we were there, they would every now and then they would try and get out of the channel.
Yeah.
And they would get to the edge where it like bottlenecks kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they would like all ball up on the surface and then try and run back in, and a big jeet would come and absolutely annihilate them.
Yeah, right.
And then that's where we'd put the fly in and bang on.
Gotcha.
And the same sort of thing was happening this time, but we didn't see the jeets eating them, and they're sitting right behind a bombie.
Yeah.
And last time they were sitting behind bombies as well, and you just put the fly over the top and they just come up and slurp it off the top. But this time they didn't want a bar of it. We also had shots of them like up on top of the flat.
Yeah.
Like big fish too. And you'd put the fly, the first couple, I put the fly maybe 5 meters in front.
Yep.
And spooked as soon as it hit the water.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, they're a bit spookier, so I'll put it further in front. And even like 10 meters in front, as soon as they saw the fly, they were gone.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know whether it was like water temperature or like something I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was doing nothing different to what I was doing last time, and they ate every single time.
Yeah, right.
So that was pretty interesting. And this time we saw jeets on the inside in the lagoon chasing bones.
Yeah.
And like you'd be walking along, and then out of like knee-deep water, this like 30-kilo jeet would just bust out of the flat because it's just sitting on the turtle grass.
Yeah, yeah.
Just sitting there, like you can't see them, but they're just sitting there, and then you walk up on them and
spooks them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that in Sudan a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like it scares the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
You can't see them. And you almost stand on them. Like you only get to like 10 meters away from them. Yeah. And then they just explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, and then the one jeet that we did get for the trip was chasing bones on the inside, and it ate a bonefish fly size 4. So
that's a tiny fly, eh?
Yeah.
I nearly had a decent one actually, sort of near where we're going now actually. Just to put everyone in the picture, you probably hear the car noise, we're on a big road trip. Flynn's about 5 or 6 days away from returning to work guiding at East Coast Angling, so we're just trying to make the most of the little window of good tides and go and have a look on the flats, see if we can get bending. But yeah, I had one that I nearly hooked on a 10 weight with like I think it was like a size 2 shrimp.
Yeah.
And it was probably maybe 15 to 17 kilo fish, and I shat myself because it ate the fly, but it didn't like hook up.
Yeah.
And yeah, on a little size 4, what were you running, like 16 pound leader or something?
I was running 20 pound.
20 pound, yeah.
And it choked it too, like wasn't in the corner of the jaw, it was hooked right in its tongue.
That's a cool fight, eh?
Yeah. And that took so much line, like 200 metres of backing, it was way out. And when Dad came over to me to like film when I hooked up, because the sharks are a big problem over there with the bones.
Yep.
And like if a bone ran that far, it's dead. Almost impossible to land it.
Yep.
And then so Dad was like, "Oh, do you want me to run out there and like stomp the sharks off it, sort of thing?" And I was like, "No, it's not going to be eaten. It's a G."
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty cool to get that, and on a 9 weight too. So
yeah, that's fucking awesome. It's funny actually chasing GTs in Sudan. Like a lot of it's teasing the edges, bringing them in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those atolls don't necessarily have, from what we can see, they don't really have like entry and exit points.
Yeah.
It's sort of like one deep ledge that just comes up in a uniform fashion.
Yep.
And wherever you do find a little entry, obviously that's obviously a funnel for fish.
Yeah.
But typically a lot of that stuff is all just big drop off, like 200 meters deep off of like a meter deep. It just drops off into the abyss. And a lot of it was teasing fish in, so we'd get like I think the biggest GT was probably around that 16, 17 kilo mark, and there was some really fucking big bluefin trevally we landed.
Massive ones.
Yeah, man, and they're like monsters. Like they fucking hit a fly so hard.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And like you're running like GT line on a 12 weight and like 120 pound leader of like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet in length.
Yeah.
And when they hit, it's just like just this jolt through your entire body.
Yeah.
And like it's the way that you fight them over there, it's very different to what you were saying, because it's so close to like deep water where they just go boom, see you later, and you're gone. It's like as soon as they hit, it's lock drag, and it's like fucking running backwards.
Yeah.
Like you're holding on to the line, like your fingers are burning, and you just cannot let them have a thing. And so as soon as you let it turn and get momentum away, you're gone.
Yeah. So
you've almost got to, like, as soon as they eat, just hold and run backwards and like do whatever you can to keep it on a short leash. And it is the most brutal fucking violent fight. It's the best ever. Yeah.
That's
it's so
very
good.
similar to when you chase them in those drains that I was talking about earlier.
Yep.
That's like, if they go outside that drain, you're done.
Yeah.
And I had a couple like really big fish that went outside the drain, and like I sort of had a glimmer of hope because you'd like have them on for a couple of minutes, and then they just find something.
Yeah.
Or like I had a few that like broke the fly line when it was like fully out, but like you have to keep them on a short leash, otherwise you can't.
Actually, Ben hooked a fucking cracker, and it was, I don't even know what line it was. It's definitely 12 weight line. I thought it was GT line. I actually bought the reel off Lee Unit.
Oh yeah.
And it had some line on it already. I can't remember whether he told me it was GT line or I should change it or whatever. But anyway, long story short, that line was on there, and he hooked one that was well over 20 kilos, maybe pushing 25. It was a big fish. Yeah. And he just like, he's giving it nothing, and the line just like the fly line just explodes. And he's just like lost for words. And I was so fucking disappointed for him too, because he was having a bit of a tough time on the fly getting stuff to happen. Yeah. And he got the bite from the fucking trophy fish and just didn't end well. It was fucking such a shame. But we had a lot of shots on teased up fish when we were teasing for that 1 or 2 days. Yeah. But then apart from that, it was all trigger fish pretty much. Yeah. And then, but the biggest GT that we came across on the flats was just me when I was by myself actually. And because Ben films a lot for his YouTube and shit, and he's always on me. Like when I'm not filming, I'm fishing, and I just want to fish because I hold the camera so much.
Yeah.
And so I don't often have like the chest mount or the GoPro running or any of that sort of shit. I just fish for fun. And he's always up me like when we're on these trips, like fucking run your GoPro, man. Like fucking get some cool shit.
Yeah.
Because you always miss the best fucking shit.
100%.
Like how much fucked up cool shit
I
happens.
so wish you could record with your eyes because
100%,
like
yeah,
you see everything in slow motion.
Yeah. So anyway, like that is ringing in my ear. Like I've been jigging with him and I've missed doggy hookups and all sorts of shit because I'd never bothered changing my battery. Once my battery's out on my GoPro, if I'm
very
fishing,
much the same.
I'm like, fuck the GoPro. I just want to fish. So I'm guilty of that. And Ben, whenever Ben fishes with me, he's like, mate, like it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I've got 5 fucking charged batteries. Just do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, fair enough. Like we traveled halfway around the world. Let's get some cool shit. So I was being really disciplined with that.
Yeah.
And I went off on a day with Nicola and Alex. So Alex is John B's camera guy.
Yep.
Really good fucking dude. Solid fella. Loves fly fishing. And so me and him were having a good yarn, going backwards and forwards and looking for fish. But it was a pretty quiet day. And Nicola was like miles down the flat chasing permit. And like he just had tunnel vision on that. So I was standing near a drain similar to what you described before, and it was like one of the only sections of that flat that had an entry and exit point on a drain.
Yeah.
And I saw this shark come in. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. A bit of bait flick in, and then I saw a big yellow margin trigger in the middle of the drain. I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. No battery though. So I was like, I could just hear Buster's voice in my head, mate, just fucking put the battery in. Like, because I had 3 full batteries in my backpack.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, that fish is going nowhere. I've caught like 15 triggers already. It's fine. Like, just change your battery.
Yeah.
Make the cast, catch the fish. I have a 12 weight on me and a fucking 10 weight. So I put my 10 weight down. I put my 12 weight down. I take my backpack off. I open my GoPro. I look for the batteries. I've got my GoPro off. The battery's out. I've got the new battery in my hand. I look up. 25 kilo GT. 15 yards from me on the back of a shark, just doing like little laps of this drain. And so I'm like, fuck, in my mind, like, you can't, like, Buster, you fucking can't. Like, the one time I tried to do the right thing, it was the only shot we had at a free swimming GT the entire trip. Because everything else was off the teaser.
And he would have eaten off
Would
the
have
back of a
eaten
shark.
for sure, man. He was in there. There was bait in there, and like so, I'm like panicking and like fumbling. I drop one battery in the water. I get another battery, like click it in, boom, hit the record, and then I try to pick up my 12 weight and like basically spook it. Like, long story short, I missed the fucking shot, and I was fucking ropeable for the rest of the day. Because I missed the trigger too. Like the GT spooked the trigger, and it was just fucking all over. But interestingly enough, actually, the next like 20 minutes, I was just off in my own little world thinking, fuck, you know, like spewing. And I'm in the middle of the Red Sea having the time of my life. Like, what was I there to be upset about?
Yeah.
And I literally like was thinking that in my mind, like, don't be upset, man. Like, you're in fucking paradise. Like, no one gets to do this. You're so fucking lucky. And then I looked up and I saw this shape like 3 meters off the shore. Water would have been about maybe 600 or 700 mil deep. It was kind of like, there's not a lot of tidal movement in Sudan. It moves like maybe 500 or 600 mil at the most, in most of it. So it's kind of like a lagoon off a steep sandbank. And I saw this shape just sitting on the bank, like sitting on a little sand patch. And I was like, what the fuck is that? It looked like a blue bastard, but then it would move and it looked like a permit. And then I got closer and I thought, that's a fucking GT. And this thing was like in excess of a meter. It was a big fish. Proper big fish. And so I cast a crab at it from a distance and it dropped it about maybe 2 meters in front of it. And it kind of changed body language. Like it looked at it, like it turned. I was like, fuck, that's weird. Maybe it did see that. And I thought I just fucked the cast up. So I picked it up, laid it out again, just another maybe 2 feet closer. And it definitely came over to the fly. It just comes over, looks at it, and then doesn't spook or anything, but it just looks, tips at it, doesn't eat it, just has a closer look at it, and then it just mooches and just moves away. And as it turns around, like, it looks like a blue bastard proper. And earlier in the trip, the guys were saying on these particular islands, you get these fish called the giant sweet lip. No one in the world has caught one on fly apparently, because they're only in this region of the Red Sea. Yeah, and they hooked one about 4 months earlier on a previous exploratory to the sort of nearest edges of the southern stretch of that particular bit of the ocean.
Yeah.
They'd hooked one and got it really close to landing it and pulled hooks just meters from the shore. And then I started chasing it, like thinking, fuck, that's one of them. Like, and it just cruised off, like it didn't give a fuck I was there. Like, just massive. Like, think of a blue bastard twice the size of what we were catching. Like, scary big.
But are they like?
They're a thing.
But are they a blue bastard or? Are
they're like a sweet lip, yeah, giant sweet lip. So a blue bastard is like a painted sweet lip.
Yeah, yeah.
Similar sort of.
But they look exactly the same, like same colouring.
They look pretty close. Yeah. Like, I mean, I got within, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 yards of it, something like that. So I could see the shape and the colour.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it as clearly as what we were seeing because the water wasn't as clear.
Yeah.
On some of those atolls, but definitely a big sweet lip and definitely like giant. So they're a thing in the Red Sea that Nicola's keen to try to get done.
Yeah,
but just seeing one in with my own eyes, I was like, holy fuck! There's so much cool shit out there that you don't know about unless you go and look.
Oh, 100%.
That's why I'm pretty keen to try and find bones and triggers and shit on the East Coast here, eh?
Yeah, they're definitely here.
You just got to put the time in. It's like anything. Like it'd be a lot of time, a lot of fuel, a lot of effort, but it's kind of like that. Like, if you're not going to put the effort in to go and find cool shit that you enjoy doing, what are you here for?
Exactly.
That's where I get the most enjoyment out of. That's for sure. So, what's the plans with the rest of the year then?
Well, we've got the mothership season for East Coast Angling coming up.
Yep.
So doing that, that's cut a little bit short because of the whole coronavirus thing. But
yep.
Doing that and then just see where I go from there. Like, I really want to get a big perm out of Port Douglas.
Yeah.
Because we know where they are now. And we've had shots of them, we've had them follow the fly and everything. So that's definitely a goal. And hopefully Cocos again.
Yep.
Towards the end of the year, start of next year.
Yep.
And then, just see how it goes. 2020 is a bit of a write-off for everyone.
It is a bit, eh? Yeah, it kind of fucked everyone over.
Yeah.
Like, we had a lot of stuff planned as well, like, not just our own trips, but we had a few trips overseas, like hosted stuff.
Yeah. That
we want to try to get into, and it's kind of all pushed back a little bit, but I'm like super keen, honestly, to film more stuff around Australia. But if I get the opportunity to travel again for work, I'm fucking taking it with both hands.
100%.
That Sudan trip, man, was like, I know people, like, it sounds real dicky when people go, oh, that was a life-changing experience, but it really was for me.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done a lot of travel, honestly, and to be able to go to like a country, like an African country, third world, and be able to be part of like an exploratory type trip like that was just like, I was pinching myself.
Yeah.
Really
what was it like, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but when people think about those sort of countries, they think it's like unsafe. And
fucking oath. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I really did, eh? Like, when, and I'll tell you how it all set up. Like, remember like last year, I think it was, we hosted John B. On that tour up the east coast of Queensland.
Yeah.
And that went really well for him. Like, all the guys involved in casts really like sort of really rolled the red carpet out for him and like got them onto almost every species of fish that was on their bucket list.
Yeah.
And it sort of turned into a freshwater tour because the weather was so fucked. They really wanted big Spanish mackerel and big GTs, but it was all, it was what it was.
Yeah.
And so I guess John was quite appreciative of the fact that it was such a well-run tour.
Yeah.
And everyone was so helpful and so nice. And at the end of it, he said, like, there wouldn't be a single person that we met on that trip or anyone that's involved in cast that he wouldn't consider like a great friend now.
Right.
Because of the way that like he was looked after and stuff. And that's a real credit to everyone that was involved. But long story short, he basically said, if you guys come to America, let's hook it up and do it on the other side of the world. And we're like, yeah, fucking oath, happy days. and sort of thought nothing of it because we didn't really get a chance to go back over there.
Yeah.
And then just out of the blue, like we chat every now and again, bits and pieces, backwards and forwards or whatever. And out of the blue, I get a message from Jarko, Captain Jack. He's like, "Hey Mick, looks like I'm going to go to Sudan, probably with John B. Are you guys interested?" And I just wrote back in capital letters, "In." And didn't even know anything about it, no dates, nothing. I was just in. Because like for me, like Jarko is like a fucking lord, a massive inspiration.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those guys who I look at and go, fuck, I really appreciate how much time and effort and dedication that he has to his craft.
Yeah.
And it's not just the craft of guiding or fishing himself, like actually producing great films and, you know, stuff that really, a lot of his stuff has inspired me to start fly fishing.
Yeah.
And like, so I was like, yep, I'm in, whatever's happening, we're doing it. And so it's like, okay, cool, I'll be in touch. And then like maybe 3 days later, I think John sent me and Ben a group message to say, "Hey guys, we're going to Sudan, I'd really love you to come along." So I wrote back straight away to him too and said, "Yeah man, spoken to Jarko, we're in." And I hadn't even asked Ben at all. And like straight away I was like, okay, Sudan, that sounds fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
It sounds real dangerous. But anyway, fuck it. If the boys are in, I'm in. Let's do it. And so I messaged Ben and I said, "Hey, we're going to this, eh?" And he's like, "Man, I'm just about to leave for a trip up with Tyson to the Cape. Like, I'll chat to you about it when I get back." I was like, okay, cool. So I started making arrangements. Like, I was like trying to find out how to get there, what we were doing. Like, it was all over WhatsApp because there was Jarko, me, John, Alex, Ben, Nicola from Wild Sea, and the African Waters guys who are the guiding operation. So there was this whole big group chat and it was all like a bit convoluted and long story short, it got to the point where we didn't know whether the fuck we were going or we weren't. Yeah. Because we couldn't get any answers at the time because it was just so hard to line everybody's information up. The communication wasn't really to the point. Yeah. So anyway, we got to the point where we were like, okay, these are the dates we need to fly in. These are the flights we need to get. This is how much baggage we need. This is how much cash we need. This is the process. Oh, and by the way, when you get there, the only dodgy thing we need to do, and it's not really dodgy, it's just the way they do things, but when you get to the airport, you give them your passport for the whole 2 weeks.
Fuck that.
Yeah, and we were like, that's exactly what I said. I went, fuck that. And Jarko goes, no, it's just the way they do things, mate. It's all good. It's perfectly safe. They've been running scuba diving tours like this for years. That's how they operate. You give them the passport, they send it into the capital, gets stamped or whatever, and then it comes back, and then you get it before you jump on the plane on the way out. And we're like, okay, this is weird. He's like, yeah, don't stress, it's all good. I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. Like, he's been all around the world, everywhere, right? So I asked a few questions of other people, and like, you know, he's like, yep, that's how we do it, you know, blah, 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 blah. We've never had an issue in 10 years. All right, cool, take your word for it. Fucking YOLO, let's go. So I booked the flights, and
did Benny know at this stage?
Oh, sorry, I'll wind back one step. Ben got back from the Cape trip with Tyson where they fucking slayed. Yeah. Like, monster trout and all that shit. And just basically he was high on life. He got his fix of sports fishing. He's like, fuck the world, I'm satisfied. Yeah. So I go to him, hey man, Sudan, yes or no? And he writes back to me and he goes, man, no, I think he rang me. He goes, man, I'm like 90% out, 10% in, unless you can convince me it's going to be a good idea. And I wrote back to him, like I said to him, man, because he was going to take his family on a holiday and vlog it. Yeah. And I said, look, no offense, dude, but I really think we're going to get fucking epic content and an amazing experience, like an amazing life experience out of going on this trip. Yeah. He was like, all right, let me fucking think about it. Like, sounds pretty dangerous, man, but let me think about it. And I was like, all right, think about it, but like within the week we need to book flights. Yeah. I need to order fly lines, I need to order flies, we need to know what's going on. Had to buy him wading boots and all sorts of shit. So, and the time's ticking. And then, so anyway, I ended up writing him a message like 3 days later or something. Mate, are you in or are you not? Like, this is going to be amazing. And he wrote back, I'm 51% in, 49% out. all right, that's good enough for me. I'm booking the flights. So I booked the flights, I booked the fucking travel insurance, I bought him a pair of wading boots which didn't arrive in time, so he had to wear these fucked up
Joggers.
aqua joggers. And they were fucked. Like oh man, poor fucking bloke trying to walk over gnarly coral and shit in basically like not even, like he would have been better off in a pair of Dunlop Ollies. But he had these poor fucking things, so anyway, like we got there in tights and no board shorts. Mind you, who the fuck wears tights and no shorts over the top? Like, you're not at a fucking NRL training camp, man. Like, what the fuck? And the funny thing is, he thinks it's weird that I wear shorts over my tights. What fucking planet are we on, man? Jesus Christ. Oh man, like all he has to do on those trips is bend over once in front of you on the boat and it's over. Like you cannot unsee that shit, man. Oh fuck. It's ridiculous. But anyway, tights, long pants, fucking basically joggers that fall apart after the first day. And yeah, long story short, man, we got there, I was peaking.
I bet.
I was absolutely fucking peaking because I had no idea what it was going to be like. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And so we flew to Dubai. Like, okay, cool, we're in Dubai. This is actually fucking happening. Met up with John and Alex. Then met up with Nicola and Brent, the guide. Jumped on the little plane and went from Dubai straight to Port Sudan. Got out at Port Sudan and it was the middle of Corona startup.
Yeah.
So they're all like temperature checking your forehead and like everyone's got masks on and all that shit. And it's really a third world country, it really is.
Yeah.
So the airport is like, you know what we're used to in Australia where you put all your shit through the scanner. It's like got full x-ray, you get metal detectors and you know, all that shit. You go over there, you literally put your bag on a carousel. It goes through like an x-ray machine that doesn't even look like an x-ray machine. It looks fake. Like it's just there to fucking for show.
Yeah.
And you give them your passport and then you jump on a bus and 20 minutes later you're on the fucking mothership. It's literally that easy.
Really?
So you walk in, you're on the mothership, cracking beers, drinking nice, eating nice food, talking shit, getting all your gear ready. And then basically like, it's like everything that you thought was gonna go wrong doesn't go wrong. The people are beautiful, they're all friendly, like they're all struggling together because they're all in poverty, but they're all like, they love each other, you know, like, like they meet each other, everyone's smiling, everyone's hugging, and you know, like they're all happy, which is like amazing. And they're just a beautiful, beautiful community of people that live in that Port Sudan area. And they're all so supportive of like the scuba diving industry because it brings money into their community and things like that. So everyone's really respectful and helpful, and it's amazing. And so then we set off into the sea and like got lost for 2 weeks and then came back, and we actually got in a little tuk-tuk and went for a walk in like through the markets of Port Sudan. Yeah. And that was a real eye-opening experience for me. Like it was, I've never seen anything like it. It's like real poverty. Yeah. You know, like there's a lot of people like real poverty, and I kind of it kind of really made me feel grateful for like how we live our life here. Yeah. You know, like it's very easy for people to, you know, like get the shits with, you know, certain things that happen in your life, or, you know, like you can easily take it for granted how great our life is in this country. Yeah. And so that was a really good experience. And then we got our passports back on the last day and we were just like, fucking happy days. Out we go. Easy as that. It was like, it was fantastic. I would definitely do it again, and there's talks of maybe going to do some work with those guys producing promotional films in Ghana and Cameroon and stuff like that. So, fuck, man. Like, pinch me. Yeah. Like, seriously, I can't believe where, like, Cast has taken my life. Yeah. It's fucking unbelievable. So, yeah, that's pretty much how that trip came about, and yeah, I would go back for sure. I would definitely go back for sure. Is there like a location or what? Because you've been around the world a bit. Is there a location that's on your like bucket list?
Probably Socotra in Yemen.
Yeah, Socotra for sure.
That's like
yeah, definitely.
100% where like,
Yeah.
I don't even know, are you allowed to get there anymore? Or?
Yeah, you can go there with Nicola. Nicola
Yeah.
does I think he's the only operator there.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it's like, it's full like pirate shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's,
Not like real pirates, but like,
yeah.
yeah, sleeping in mattresses in open air and stone huts and
Yeah.
yeah, like Nicola actually was stuck there for like 3 months because of coronavirus. If you have a look at his face, yeah, man. If you have a look at his Facebook page, that guy has done like seriously, that guy is the most interesting human I've ever met in my life.
Really?
He has done some shit, man. Like he's only, I think he's 34, 35, and he's just been doing that shit, like setting up Wild Sea and going and exploring all these new places. It's kind of like Luke Rister,
Yeah.
but he's been doing it since he was like 20.
Yeah.
So you picture your age going and doing all that exploratory shit in Africa when you're an Italian guy. Crazy, eh?
That's super crazy.
Like he speaks 3 or 4 languages fluently.
Really?
Yeah. He speaks Italian, Arabic.
Yeah.
The Arabic side of thing, because the Sudanese people speak like Arabic Sudanese.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mix. It's like Egyptian, because Sudan's really near Egypt,
Yeah.
and it's in that Arabian sort of area.
Yeah.
So he speaks Arabic, obviously Italian, English, and he's learning Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah, very fucking interesting human, man. Very interesting. And like just the conversation around the dinner table, like just had me so intrigued. Like I could sit and talk to him I had a couple of really long conversations with him, and I would consider him a good mate now because we still chat, and I could just listen to him tell stories about what he's done in his life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I would love to podcast him. Like he was just so busy while we were working over there. I didn't get a chance, but fuck, I would love to chat to him for a really long period of time. I've invited him over to chase Tuskies. He's super intrigued with Tuskies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's going to come over next year at some stage, and he wants to try to target blue bastards and Tuskies. He's going to stay for a couple of months.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that should be pretty fun. So yeah, like Socotra is definitely on the list.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. And I want to do, like, I would love to go get tarpon and fly as well.
Yeah. Where would you like to do that? Florida or?
I don't know, like I want to sidecast them on the flats, but then I also want to do, like, you know those videos on YouTube where you see them like tailing and stuff in the creeks?
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the like
in the
rivers?
jungles?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool as well.
That's like a South American thing, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they get them in Africa as well. I think in Ghana,
Yeah.
like massive tarpon and those giant African threadfin salmon
Yeah.
in the same like system.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Like
Those
you
things
think
are
those?
massive.
Oh man, you think the Fitzroy River threadies are big? Those things are fucked up big. Like you're talking 60, 70 kilos.
Yeah.
Threadfin. What the fuck? On fly, mind you. And those big fucking Kubera snapper.
In the creek.
No, it's like oceanic. I'm
Oh,
pretty
right,
sure,
yeah.
like those Kubera snapper that they get over there, or Boha snapper they call them over
Yeah.
there. Like
Fucking giant.
absolutely giant. Like same thing, like 50, 60 pounds, like huge fish on fly.
40 kilo red bass.
Yeah, ridiculous. And then you throw in like those big Nile perch
Yeah.
in Cameroon. Like some of the stories Brent was telling me about those, like that's spooky. Like because they fish for them at night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're a nocturnal predator. So he said basically what you want is there's 2 bite periods. So you pretty much want the sundown bite period to extend into the moonrise bite period. So
Right.
you get like a 3-hour bite period. So it's like sort of as the sun goes down, you get that twilight bite. And then as the sun disappears and it goes totally dark,
The moon comes up.
the moon comes up.
Yeah.
So that's obviously closer to a full moon.
Yeah.
Like when the sun sets and the moon rises, roughly the same time. And he said basically it's sort of like you get to that point where it's dead still. All you can hear is like lions and shit like that in the background.
Proper
You're hearing
spooky.
Proper spooky. Like no other noise other than the river and animals. Like proper wild animals. And you're casting a fly, like basically a fucking GT fly, at night in the pitch black for fish that could be fucking 200 pound. Like a 200 pound barra.
That's fucked
Like,
up.
and I'm not fucking joking either. Like 200 pound barra. Have you seen that film Capitan or whatever it is? Capitan?
No.
If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen that, go to either African Waters on Instagram or Voss Films, VOS Films, and look up Capitan. Watch that fucking film. Like, stop the podcast right now and go and watch it and then come back to it. It's fucked up good.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to watch it after this podcast. I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
It's so fucking good, man. Like, there's got like pictures of these Nile perch hung up on trees by some of the old people that used to catch them. Like 6.5 feet long. Barra.
What do they run? They must run like 200 pound leader.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I guess so. It'd be like fucking fighting a GT.
Yeah.
So in that film, they catch a bunch of small ones, and then right at the end, they catch a fucking giant.
Oh, really?
It's crazy, dude. Yeah. Very fucking good film. Like, it's one of those films you watch it, and as someone who sort of produces films a little bit, like, every now and again when I go, oh yeah, that Goals episode was pretty good, then I'll watch something like that and I go, ah, shit. Fuck. There's levels to the game, eh? That dude, the people who made that film are fucking out of control. They're so fucking good, man. And, like, all that stuff's available in Africa.
Yeah.
And then you tell the stories to the guys in Africa about stuff like that we have available, like the topwater barra shit on frogs that Schultz has been doing, and tuskies, and you know, these mutant-sized fucking anak permit, shit like that, and that blows their fucking mind.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, like, you don't realise how good you got it in your own backyard.
Exactly.
You know, it's amazing. You can find epicness wherever you look. You just got to be prepared to go and do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but if I get the chance to travel more around Australia or internationally, I'm just definitely grabbing it with both hands, man. It's such a good experience.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who didn't travel that much when I was younger. It was, it was crazy. I don't know how long we've been going for, but I think there's a couple of questions that's come through, on Instagram. So I'm just going to fumble around real quick. Pulled over nice and safely. And I'm going to hit you with a couple of questions that have come through. I know one of them straight off the top was recommendations for dogtooth tuna rod. Because you've caught a few at home now.
Yeah.
And on charter as well, hey, for East Coast.
Yeah. Well, it really depends on like what you can fish.
Yep.
But if I was going to choose a doggy rod as far as to fight with, it would be a salty water tackle OBX 400.
Yeah, right.
That's what I use. It's a spinning rod. They do an overhead as well, actually.
Yep.
Super comfortable to fight with.
Yep.
And it's got plenty of balls.
Yep.
Like you can.
And is that a jigging rod or a casting
it's
rod?
a jigging rod.
Yep.
And like I don't just use it for doggies. Obviously, I've caught big yellowfin and stuff.
Yeah.
Just the other day on it.
Yep.
And yeah, that rod's a super easy rod to fight with. On charter, when we got that 80 kilo one, that was caught on a jigging master. I don't know the exact model. It was a jigging master blank.
Yep.
But the rod was built by Mike Benici.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that was a jigging master rod, and that I didn't feel it or anything, but that looked like a comfortable rod to fight with.
Yep.
But as far as overhead rods, I haven't done much jigging with overhead, like with P10
Big stuff.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that OBX 400 is a beautiful rod to fight with.
Those overhead ones, like a lot of those really heavy stuff, they do that underhead or whatever they call it, Like it's an overhead reel but spiral wrap so that you're fighting it like a spin rod.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense for big fish.
Yeah, and it just stops the line touching the blank.
Yeah. So have you caught many doggies off the top?
I haven't caught lots. I've caught a few. I've probably caught six.
Yeah.
6 or 8.
Yeah.
And as far as I just use my GT rod, like
Yeah.
on the island,
Similar
they're
sort
not
of
that
shit.
common off the top, so it's
Yeah.
just sort of like when they appear, it's in
Yeah.
the same areas and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
It's more like bycatch sort of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So that's whatever rod I'm using at the time, but
Yeah.
that'll generally be a Ripple Fisher GT711 or Final Spirit,
yeah.
or a ASWB GT T10,
Yep.
or a Race Point 250.
Yeah, gotcha.
And yeah, that if it's on a Ripple Fisher, it hurts
Yeah, right. Does
because
it?
they're a super stiff rod.
Yeah.
But
And they're all like super expensive rods too, eh? Like
yeah,
the GT Tamer's probably not.
GT Tame is that's a very reasonable priced rod for
Yeah.
what you get.
Yep.
But yeah, the Ripples and that Race Point 250 is also a salty water tackle rod,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's also pretty dear.
Have you ever used a Japan?
No,
I've got one, a P 5 to 8, and it is a beautiful rod, man.
really?
Yeah, under load on big fish, it's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
A lot of those P10 rods, they need a big fish
Yeah.
to do their job
Fold them
properly.
over, yeah.
And,
Yeah, well, if they're not bending, you've got all that force out over a greater distance away from the water.
yeah, exactly.
It's
And
always
like a
gonna be
little
harder.
fish rattles you.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Just from the force being so far away from
Exactly.
your body. Yeah, righto. Let me grab these other questions. I just saw one there before, like, will you ever cut your hair?
Yeah,
Maybe.
have a trim like every 6 weeks.
That's the beauty of having a fucking job as a fishing guide.
Yeah,
You can look like a fucking scoundrel. Which you do a good job at. Just quietly. And that. I'll just grab these other questions real quick. Where are we? Alright, I'll just go through a couple of them. Alright, doggy rods we covered. Next dream location to fish top water, would that be Socotra? Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or also cocos conventionally. I haven't
rightio.
fished cocos conventionally. I've only ever fished the flats.
Yeah.
But that would have some insane stuff. I know there's been plenty of doggies caught top water there.
Yep.
And like big GTs, that's one thing that we don't have on Christmas Island.
Yeah.
Like we've got big GTs, but like numbers of them.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be very interesting to fish it conventionally, like properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely be cocos. And there's actually a seamount that I want to get to, which is a long way,
Yeah.
but it's doable.
Yeah.
There's a seamount off cocos that I want to fish, and it comes up from 4,000 meters up to 15.
Oh wow.
And I know of one person that's been there, and he said that it's absolutely littered.
Oh, you'd
With
think it
doggies.
would have fucking heaps of them.
Like that would be a scary first trip.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that would be.
Proper scary.
Yeah. Think about how often they would not have seen lures.
But like they've
ever.
never seen a lure. They didn't fish when they went there.
Yeah,
they
right.
went there with
Oh,
like
fuck.
research divers.
Yeah. Okay.
And they reckon all they could see was doggies.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So that's definitely a place I want to get to.
Yep. Alrighty. We'll end with a good one, but I'll just get there's a couple more out of there. Like your career path. Obviously, you're a guide now. Is that something that you're going to pursue, like basically until the wheels fall off? Like, what's your plans? Like, what do you want to do with your life?
I don't know what I want to do with my life, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you're only 20, man.
Yeah,
Just fucking
exactly.
Keep rolling with what you're doing. Just do fun shit.
I
basically.
want to fish. Like I love guiding and I love putting people onto fish.
Yep.
But I do want to fish myself, like full time, especially fly. Like,
Yep.
not saying I've been there, done it all on conventional or whatever, but like fly is definitely
Yep.
the next thing, like the next challenge.
It gives you a new lease on fishing, when you've caught a
Exactly.
bunch of fish.
Yeah,
People might not realise that you're only 20.
yeah,
Like, I've known you since you were like 14,
yeah,
and I often get caught in my own head thinking you're way older than you are, purely because of all the shit you've been fortunate enough to do.
yeah,
And also the kind of bloke you are. Like, you're very mature for your age. You're like, your parents are obviously really good people, and it's easy to like mistake you for, like 25, 26, like, 'cause you've been around a bit and done a lot of stuff. So you're fucking killing it, man. Life.
Yeah.
20 years old, fucking done all the shit you've done. It's fucking crazy.
yeah. Pretty
It's good on you.
fortunate.
Oh, proper, mate. And the funny thing, not funny, the really refreshing thing is you're not one of those young kids who Like, you never come across to me like entitled or anything like that. Like, you're always really humble and just fucking loving life. It's a credit to you, mate. It really is. So I think no matter what you do with your life, you're always going to do well at it, because if you have that attitude, you know.
Yeah.
So at the moment it's guiding. In 5 years' time it might be something completely different.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You might be fishing for yourself and just working somewhere else, or your own business, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool fucking little story you're creating, man, for sure. I think I told you like a few years ago, whatever you, like, the world is your oyster, man. You can do whatever you fucking want, you know. All right, last question. Legit prostate exam by a large-fingered old man doctor, or your misso dipping a surprise two digits? Gun to your head.
I'd go 2 digits.
2 digits. Have to, Try anything 4 times. You'll be a fair way away from prostate exams anyway, man. Long way. You might have a more open mind by then.
Never know, eh?
You never know. All right, so that wraps up for the questions anyway. Like, is there anything else you want to cover, man?
I don't think so.
It's just about cider time, I think.
I think so.
Fucking oath. Well, that's a good chat, man. Like, appreciate your time as always. Like, probably not going to get a chance to do this again for a little while. Hopefully we get to, on the next time I come up and film for Nick. Hint, hint, Nick. Give us another job, mate. Hopefully somewhere really rad. We can fuck off for like 10 days again out of reception. How good. But shout out to Nick. He's a fucking legend. We've done some really cool work together. Obviously he's given you a job and got you kick-started in the industry here as well, and runs a good operation. So fucking happy days, man. And as always, like, it's a pleasure having you involved in what we do at Cast. And man, it's like, I can't say enough positive things about you, dude. Like, you're
Thank you,
a fucking
man. I appreciate
absolute legend, and a real pleasure to have you on the podcast as well. So we'll wrap it up with that, and we'll hand the reins back over to Wade on the next podcast. But he's not even busy, man.
No, you just pretend busy.
He's fucking fake busy, Every time I ring him, he fucking doesn't answer to pretend like he's busy.
Yeah.
Fucking winker.